Hi guys, Tekim here. It's 2021 and it's time to address another problem in Irish market in regard of computer parts. We're not gonna stick to the subject for too long. I just wanted to show you like what to be careful, what could be a good deal, what could be a bad deal, what should you avoid, etc, etc. We hope that you are still safe and sound, and hope you're gonna enjoy our new video. Okay, so we're gonna start first with parts. Most of the time, like usually if you want to build a computer and things like that, you're trying to kind of like try to find as best deal as you can, like, and beside the basics like a graphic card, like a motherboard, power supply, things like that, you try to kind of like, negotiate the price as best as possible, and try to find with the seller the best possible way for both sides. So with the first one, we're going to talk about the graphic card. It's XFX, it's XFX card 5700 XT. The seller priced the car around 500 euro, which is a bit high for I would say a year-old card, and in this kind of case, like, I wouldn't concentrate on the 57 XT, especially because AMD's drivers for the past few generations are terrible. Not sure like how the new 68, 100 XT and 69 XT are actually working like, but the previous generations were to avoid. What we are thinking like for this specific card at the current moment, we wouldn't be paying like more than 400 euro. The next one we're talking about the motherboard. In this case, the seller is trying to scam people, if we can say it like that, because this motherboard belongs to Kaby Lake, which was released like what, 5 years ago now. The same motherboard new, that's why we put our prediction for it, like 120 euro. The same motherboard new can be found for roughly around 135 euro delivered to your door. In this case, the seller is asking 180, which is way too much for the board that beside engineer samples, CPUs maximum you can put in it like would be like i7, which is 4 cores 8 thread. The next one, we are talking about the bundle here, and as good as the price is, there's also kind of like few downsides. Like for example, like the i7 that the seller is selling, it's not bad, it's still decent CPU like for gaming, for all around things like even video producing and music and things like that, like, but the motherboard that he actually fit in is completely wrong, because the CPU is overclockable, the motherboard isn't. Not 100% sure, like even with the temperatures on that board, considering that it's a H310M. There's no heat sinks on those VRMs, like, and I could bet like that the temperature and the speed of that processor would be probably downclocked as soon as it hits, say, 80 degrees. The processor wouldn't be working like on the or even on the boost clock, like it would downclock itself, like just to prevent the further damage. The memory here, we're talking about 16 gigabytes, which means like 2 by 8 sticks. That's maximum for that board. It's generic. We can't see like what exactly was on it, like, so I wouldn't pay attention too much to the RAM. Could be even like 2133 if you ask us. As for the cooler, this is the best part, like it's a water cooler, like, but picture clearly says it's air cooler. All in all, like, seller is asking 410, we would say around 305, even with the postage, like, because that board is definitely not worth to play with. That board would be we would put like maybe some i5 8400, i3 for at least, like, for that kind of like board, because none of them can be overclocked. This is the fun one. We're talking about the card that came out, like, I would say now like around 12 years now. GTX 550, good. The seller is claiming good starter, gaming card, 1 GB GDDR, 192-bit, right? And the asking price is €55. Now we have here, like, as a testing card, like AMD Asus HD 6670, 1 GB with a RAM, GDDR5, and that card in CSGO can't hit 50 FPS. Now, what's the purpose of the seller here to kind of scam people for €55 for the card? Like, it's not worth like €20, if so. It's unknown. Prediction Museum, definitely. We're not gonna kind of like hold our grudge against this kind of part because it's a no-go. Here we're having another card. It's one of the latest generations, like from the NVIDIA, shape and form of Gigabyte Aorus Extreme 3080. Now, as much as the card is good and close performance like to the 3090, which here seller is claiming it's even better, the price does not justify that part, because for 1800 like you could easily get 3090 even if it's pointless, like, because 3090 is not really for the gaming. It would be more for production than things. That the maximum card that you can get for the gaming, like, we would recommend, like, is 3080 and stop there, period. Prediction scalper, another one, just in a sea of the scalpers around. Like, we've been seeing like 3070s for €900, 3060s for €800, 6800s for €950, which is like around €300 to €400 more than you would be finding like with online retailers. So just keep an eye on this, because these prices, like, these type of people, like, should not be you should not be dealing with. The next one here, we're talking about the Supreme RTX 3070. The seller is asking $930. New card, never used, no time wasting, complaining about the price, etc, etc, etc. Now, if you see our previous video, we're talking about like unboxing like of the same card, 3070 Supreme non-X version, and the same card can be found like on the Scan. It's a UK site, like, for selling parts for the computers and things like that. Like, same card can be found like over there, like for €650. Of course, if you transfer it, like, because they have a pound, like, and transfer banks are taking around 20 to 30 euro to transfer it like over like to the euro value, and so from 630 to 650 is the difference. 650, 2-day delivery, delivered by the DPD. We had it like in 2 days time. It was in front of our door. So €930 and €650, it's a big difference. We're talking about like 1 week, almost on the average, like we're talking about a week's salary from some basic jobs and things like that. So just keep your eyes open and don't deal with these type of people. Next one here, we're having a bundle again. We're talking about two ones, and it's actually good ones, because knowing that the seller doesn't want to rip off the people around, he's coming up and trying to kind of like accommodate the buyers too, like not to kind of rip them off, but of course not to lose too much. In this case, like, the seller is selling like two parts, which are MSI Godlike, the X570 chipset, and latest Ryzen 9 5950X. Now, if you go on any online retailer, you will see like that these parts are very expensive. It's actually top of the line for the AMD besides Threadripper. And you will see, like, that no matter, like, if you type in like for the motherboard or for the CPU, you will see like that the prices are vary from place to place, but roughly like they're around €1,000. Board might be a bit cheaper, like, but processor is definitely going around €1,000. So the asking price from the seller, like, which is 1,500, it's not that bad. It's not that bad, knowing the current situation around, like, with the people asking for the stupid prices, like, on outdated systems. The next one here is a joke. excuse me, it's the seller is trying to sell. I really can't even kind of like put my finger on it, like what can you actually do with it, because it's AMD Athlon X3. That's a 3-core. I think it's a 3-core. Anyway, it's a CPU, motherboard, and a cooler. So there's no RAM, there's no power supply, there's no graphic card. Asking 70 euro for it. Like, in fairness, this combination here that you can see it like at the moment like would be perfect like if you want to do the office PC. Not even a server like is like HTPC maybe, because it's like, you know, it's bad as it is, like, but 70 euro for it, like, no, maximum like 15-20 euro, like if you really want to throw the money out, like, you know, this is the way to go. Another one here, we're talking about the computers. We start kind of like from the builds. The seller is asking for 100 euro for next thing. It's a socket 1150 55. Socket 1155 H61 3470 quad core, GT710. Okay, RAM 8 gigabyte. All right, Seagate 3 hard drive 2021. Okay, power supply Cooler Master 400, a bit, let's say, newer. Cyclone Mini. Now here we kind of gave our prediction on the bottom, as you can see, like for the board, CPU, GPU, and things like that. Like 100 is 178. Let's say even 200 euro is the one that you can get maximum pay for these kind of things. But keep an eye on one thing. Having let's say in this kind of case, like that would be 3047 that came out like was like 2012, I think so. So let's say like around 9 years old system. With the upgrades, with the updates, etc., this system, it's not that it's limited, but this system like shouldn't be let's say for some EA Sports games, like for example like CS:GO. You can even play like Rainbow Six with that graphic card. Like processor would actually be holding, like, you know, but that graphic card is definitely no go. Like board itself, because from time to time like we're getting parts like too, like, and we see kind of like roughly the prices for it. Like board itself is not worth more than 30 euro. CPU, even 20 euro is for it too much. We've seen like 2500K have been selling like for 20 euro, which is overclockable CPU, and if you can find a decent motherboard which would be floating around say 50 euro, you could still, like Z68, like it's around 50 euro, so you could still kind of overclock that processor and could pull out a little bit more performance than the one that you're looking now. 8 gigabytes as much as it's enough, it's not. The board is limited, so like even if you can put 16 gigabyte, like, you know, the graphic card would draw you back, like, so wouldn't be bothered like with it whatsoever. The hard drive, like hard drive is definitely saying new hard drive. The 320 gigabyte hard drives, like the last time I've seen being produced like were before 2013, so this hard drive cannot be new. Might be again some old stock like that someone was selling online, like, but it's impossible to kind of have it a new, like, you know. Cooler Master, it's a newer kind of power supply, but that power supply again, like it's overkill, like even for this system. This system like would be drawing like maybe what 250 300 tops watt. So again, like, you know, for the power supply, like you would be paying like around 35-40 euro on the used market. Like new ones, it's no point like getting anything low like that if you really want to have a gaming PC. As for the case, we had one in stock, and we were actually playing with one, and the case is like basic of a basic. The only thing that's drawing up is the RGB strip that's actually standing up front, which is you have to kind of change it like by pressing on the button on the case, but that's about it. Like, next one here we have a 450 euro, and on the first kind of thing, like I wouldn't be touching that, because the case is dirty as it is, and with the current situation, like who knows what kind of diseases you can take it from it, whatever it is. Now what he's selling, like as far as it's not bad, it's still overpriced because he's missing few parts. Graphic card, GeForce Dusty, 3 GB pallet, still like it's not a bad card, but it's showing its age. It's limited with VRAM like of 3 gigs, like, so wouldn't expect any miracles out of it. CPU, it's a first Ryzen 612, 100 euro tops. I've seen them even going like for 70 euro, but we're gonna stick with 100. Motherboard is not worth it. It's like basic of the. It's like the maximum CPU that you can put like is Zen 2 with the BIOS updates, which means like that Zen 3 will not be accommodated on this board from Asus. Corsair 450, it's probably something older, like, because it's a ketchup and mustard cables, which is really old now. And case is free. Case is, if not mistaken, that's some old Aerocool with kind of like manual switches on the top for fans and acrylic side panel. Now our prediction for this kind of thing, like without with missing parts like a hard drive and RAM, we would be saying around 260. Now for the RAM, like, you might be lucky, like, and get, let's say, Corsair low profile ones like for 50 euro, like 16 gigabytes 2x8, but the speeds would be like maybe 26, 66, 21, 33, depends how you rush into it. Hard drive, again, SSD, hard drive, SSD for the system, hard drive for the storage, let's say SSD 240, you would be paying around 40 euro. Hard drive, that would be like 2 terabytes would be around 30, so that's like 50 euros. So maximum, like, even with those things that are currently like missing, like if you add it up to the price, like 260, 310 tops, clean 350. Next one here is a seller is selling, let's say, top of the range, read between the lines, 2500 euro. A board is ASRock Phantom, which is like socket 1200. CPU i7, air cooler, low profile Corsair 3000 megahertz, which speed on Intel, it doesn't matter that much, like as much as it matters like with AMD. SSD 512 gigabyte, hard drive 2 terabyte, graphic card EVGA RTX 2080 Ti, that's 11 gigabyte version, black edition. We're having a power supply, which is Superflower 750. You don't see Superflower too many around. We've seen around, I think there was like there was a 550 watt Superflower, but they're very rare, like, to find even in the used markets. Case is NZXT H510, Windows 10 Pro activated. Now, as much as the seller tried to put his heart and soul into building this computer, it does not justify the asking price. Now, we were buzzing around, like, and wanted to go roughly around new prices, how much would it cost and everything. Roughly, because you see, kind of like once the when you buy a car and you leave the shop, the car is not new anymore, so you're losing percentage on it already. So in this kind of case, like, the seller bought, let's say, even if he bought parts new, if he's overcharging much more than the part than he's actually selling that build for. Like, for example, same motherboard, online retail you can find for around 151. I'm sure is it Amazon. CPU, again, Amazon could be around 385. Cooler, like, we found the third version of the same one, like, it was floating around 55 euro. RAM, Corsair is a bit expensive with the RAM, like, but on the used market, like, for the RAM that he's using, he's putting this time in the system, like, it's 100 euro to 120, like, wouldn't give a euro above that. SSD hard drive, as I said before, like, a hard drive would be, let's say, 30 euro. because it's a 2 terabyte, right? And SSD might be a bit more because it's SSD, it's 512 gigabyte. Usually 512A data is floating around 50, 55, but you can find them cheaper, like if you're lucky. GPU is the one like that we have to point out here. Like it's kind of like the aim for the GPU is to push the scalpers away from the potential buying this system, because that's the only thing they would be concentrating. Again, 28 mining and scalping like on the 2080 Ti would be pointless nowadays, like because most of them they're looking like would be, with the newer one would be 3060 Ti or even 3060 that came actually that will come like soon, and from the older one would be like, let's say like RX 580, RX 480, everything that's like 8 gigabyte of VRAM. Now in this kind of case, not 100% sure like what the seller is aiming for the graphic card, but we are thinking like from his pricing to our pricing that he's charging additional like 400 euro, take it or leave it, which is crazy. So it's like, think 3 times if you really kind of like stuck for the system, like that you really need to game and things like that. Think 3 times like before you even pull the trigger on this kind of system. NZXT case, again, 100 euro wouldn't be like, power supply the same thing, like wouldn't be adding more value or anything like that. So from 2.5 grand like to 1760, it's a big difference, guys. Like, and with that kind of price you can build almost another system, decent system for it. Now the same system, which is Phantom G4, right? I've seen throughout the years, I've seen top of the range boards, mid-range boards, low-end boards, OEM boards, basically everything, server boards, SoC boards, overclocking, like etc, etc. Now this board is I would say the worst one that I've seen for the high-end system that this seller is presenting. Now, if you see behind, you have HDMI port, which is output port, which means like that the CPU has to have a iGPU on it, like to support it. But again, like you really need to have iGPU if you have a 2080. That's one. Two, only 4 USBs on the back of the board. Now, if you're a basic user, right? If you're a basic user, at the moment, these four USB ports would be filled with keyboard, mouse. Let's say if you have a printer, that's 3 already, and if you have a maybe USB microphone or webcam, or I don't know. Sometimes like RGB lighting is coming like by the USB if you want to use external one. Or kind of like in general things like, so that means like you're already overpopulated. In that case, you have to use the front USB headers to cover the minus that the board has. So this motherboard does not fall into high-end, and it shouldn't be in a high-end system whatsoever. And the 3 audio jacks, come on. The next one we're talking about here like is FX 6300. With this one I'm just gonna go quickly, like, because the asking price that the seller put and the price that we are looking at, like, it's like heaven and hell. FX 6-core processor, GTX 580, 1.5 gigabytes. Yeah. 8 gigabyte DDR3, 500 gigabyte hard drive, 450 power supply, CIT case, which I assume like the power supply came with it, which is a bomb, so I wouldn't be bothered. So from 430 we came to 120. Not worth it. We see that there's a cooler on it, not 100% is a Hyper 212 Evo, which in the US market is 20 euro. In the new one would be around 28 delivered to you from Amazon to your door. Here we have another one. It's Intel 300 euro asking price. Intel, he doesn't say which one. Could assume like that it could be like socket 1155 if lucky. Some basic motherboard. It might be even like 1156, which is old. Now, NVIDIA GT 710, if you remember, like from the first PC, it was the same graphic card, which means like you cannot. That's office card. That can't. That is no. It's not a gaming card. It's not for the gaming PC. It's simple. It's not. 1 TB hard drive, 8 GB RAM, RGB fan, which that's not RGB, that's LED blue fan. Windows 10. So from €300 we came down like to 58 euro. RGB fan if you're gaming, like on top of that 710, like is giving you extra FPS. Just remember that part. Here we have I didn't even know like where this is supposed to be. A museum too. Phenom 4 965, that would be nowadays, that would be around 13, around 14-year-old CPU, right? That's a quad-core CPU. Of course, can be overclocked, but the instructions for the games, it's actually kind of built within the board and processor. Like they cannot, probably most of them, like you won't be able to play it. He didn't kind of like post more pictures about it. Like there was 2 sticks, Viper, I think, was like 2x4 motherboard. He didn't list it, like it was Asus AM3. GPU is the only decent in the system. It's 970, which probably like does nothing next to that CPU. Hard drive, no information. Power supply, no information. Case, it looks similar to the S340. Might be wrong. Our pricing, like in total, after kind of going through all these kind of thing, would be not more than 350. 250 like is something that you would be looking at. 380 is too much. I don't know, is there sentimental value in the computer, like because you're looking at the Phenom, which is like 14 years? Is that a first computer that you were built? What? So yeah, guys, that's end of the today's tutorial. About used market, about the pricing, about things that you can see actually on the market at the moment. Want to point out like one thing, like stay away from the scalpers. They are disease in this world for a simple reason, because they want to make extra fast quid like off you, because everything, like of course, like most of the cars, most of the CPUs that are on the market, like, well, they are presented to the market, like they're still not available because due to current health conditions that are around us, the need for them is actually too high. So even NVIDIA, Intel, AMD, they cannot accommodate that many needs as many people wants them. And there's a problem, like in this kind of case, like the scalpers or people like who used to have kind of like older cards or things like that, they want to make a profit out of it. Keep your eyes open, like, because this is not fair to anyone, especially not to the gamers. Like scalpers are the one like who are not worth, like it's if you're buying off the scalpers, that means like you are supporting their work. I'm not saying like that you shouldn't buy parts, but I'm saying like that you shouldn't buy parts for a 300 or 400 euro more to the one that you can buy online. Fair enough. I hear what you're saying. You cannot buy it. They are not available. There's a problem with the Brexit. They can be delivered here because of the UK borders, because they get checked, etc., etc. But you can buy, like, let's say from the France, you can buy them from the Netherlands, you can buy them even from the Germany, but be careful there, like, because some of them, like for example Alternate and Case King, they don't really want to send here things because they're sending them actually by the DHL and DPD. And DPD kind of put a pause on it. I think the pause is lifted now at the moment, like, but just double check if you're ordering something from, let's say, Germany. Mining haze, it's coming back again. Because a basic card such as RX, let's say 480, 580 with 8 gig of RAM, 1070s 8 gig of RAM, 1080s 8 gig of RAM, they will be bought out like on the used market. Just keep an eye on it. They will be bought out on the used market like by people like who wants to go into mining, because at the moment like Bitcoin is on rise again. So anything that will kind of like make a buck for the miners, like this is the way for, this is the time of the year for them. As for the missing CPUs and GPUs from the vendors and let's say from the Intel and AMD, we we were informed like that the latest update, like on the graphic cards, like say RTX 3080s and things like that, the earliest ease of the current situation would be May. Now, if you're ready to wait until May, feel free. So the only thing we don't agree like here with NVIDIA, like we know that they are stuck with the production same as AMD. But don't rush into the decision of buying kind of things like that, where be old, outdated, used. Like buying on the used market, like it's always a problem. Like you don't know what you might get. You might be lucky, you might be pulling your hair like for no reason. But do keep in mind that the stock of the missing parts at the moment, it will come back. If you're happy, again, if you're happy with your kind of current system, like keep it that way. The only thing we don't agree with the current situation is like because you cannot plan in advance. If Nvidia released their cards last, let's say September, October, and partly November, and now on CES, like they said like that 3060 non-TI is gonna come up in February, and hopefully it's gonna serve the purpose like for the missing cards that's so bad around. Even if you buy it, let's say like after May or in May, that means like that you spend already like what, 9 months without a new graphic card. Not saying like that it's necessary that you have to have a latest and greatest. You can even game like on a 2070 Ti, 6060 Ti, 2080. They are still good cards. But just don't rush into decision of buying such an expensive thing without checking, for example, like reviews or people who already have their hand on the graphic card or CPUs. So yeah, just keep an eye on it, like, and don't be fooled by the sellers. If you have a Google, you have internet, you're surrounded by the Wi-Fi. Use the information that's provided on the web. Try to get as much information as you can from it, because at the end of the day, you will be happy like if you save, let's say, 50 euro or 100 euro, because with that 50 or 100 euro, you can take your wife, your family, your kids. You can take them, like, once, of course, when the lockdown is over, you can take them for some nice dinner, for something that you're actually going to remember, like, sit together, rather than spending like 300 euro for, like we saw, like Supreme card, the fella is selling like for 930. You can get the same card for 650 from Scan. Not that I'm advertising Scan or anything, but don't rush, don't give the money to scalpers. Just plain and simple don't. Thank you for watching another tech hemp video. Sorry. We hope you enjoyed, that it bit opened your eyes, and that we're gonna see each other in the next one.